What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. So I know it's been a couple weeks since I made my last video, but believe me, it was for a good reason, at least in my opinion, because I was cracking out on Diablo 2 Resurrected Season 13 hard. Like, besides my full-time job, family, the various different workouts and exercises that I do on a weekly basis, this game has been consuming the rest of my time. And I've been up to a lot of different character builds, but one in particular that I wanted to share with you guys today seemed to tick all of the boxes for me. And I think this is my coldest Ice Themed Barbarian yet. And I'm sure if you guys have seen my previous Diablo 2 videos, you already know that I love taking a character with 0 innate ice abilities and turning said character into a winter-themed abomination. So, let's get started. So, the first thing for me was the rule of cool, and for this barbarian, it's an armored, snowy white aesthetic, courtesy of the Mavina's set armor, and we'll get into the reasoning behind using that shortly. In addition, he had to be rocking some icy-looking swords, right? So he's rocking dual crystal swords. So the aesthetically cool box has been checked. So when we kill stuff in style. Now, moving on to the gear, the setup, and the entire budget aspect for this guy. Now, there's plenty of room for improvement, and this dude is dirt cheap. No Enigma armor, no bells and whistles. Is he gonna face tank players 8 difficulty? No. But he still looks pretty cool on players 1, players 2, players 3, and this guy can hold his own. So let's start with those icy themed crystal swords. And if you guys haven't already guessed, I'm using dual Voices of Reason. And with your hardest rune to find for this rune word being Lem, which is just a mid rune, this rune word's pretty easy to slap together. You just gotta luck out on your runs looking for a 4-socketed crystal sword base. I could have also used phase blades, which would provide extra physical damage and you don't need to repair the weapons, since phase blades are innately indestructible. But the trade-off is getting to 136 dexterity, which I did not want to do, especially considering I do not have a torch right now. So the biggest reason for using Voice of Reason is to proc that beautiful looking frozen orb on striking. Now the frozen orb may only be level 13 compared to a level 21 frozen orb on its big brother rune word called Rift, but with negative 24 to cold resist against your enemies and the fact that we're doubling it up, plus the innate 100 to 220 cold damage on the swords, we're kind of making up for that. And now that we got the tail of the tape done for the weapons, the rest of this build you could probably trade for like, I don't know, an rune, and that's all the pieces combined. So let's get into the Mavina's set. Now, although it's designed for an Amazon, if you equip the 4 out of the 5 pieces that any other class is allowed to equip, you get some really nice bonuses to your character. Some of these bonuses include a combined 50% to all resists, plus 1 to all skills, around 200 or so on average cold damage for your melee attacks, 20 extra strength, 30 extra dexterity, some innate increased attack speed already on the headpiece. So even though this set is taking up 4 of my gear slots, I think it plays in favor of this build. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Mavina's armor gives us a 10% chance when we get struck to shoot out a glacial spike, so we can check off another ice skill that we stole straight off of the sorcerer's skill tree. So moving on to the rings, as you can see here, I made 2 simply crafted hit power rings, and the reason being was simply to get that procking of Frost Nova when struck. So with the 2 rings combined, that's another 10% chance to shoot out another ice-themed sorceress skill, but it's coming from our barbarian, so we can check off another box to his list of skills that he was never meant to have. Now, a big part of this build is having some kind of crushing blow, and even though we're doing little tiny bits of physical damage, that little tiny amount is still enough to have your crushing blow affect any monster. And at a 25% chance to do so, we're going to be crushing our enemies quite frequently, especially with the amount of times that we're going to be striking with our swords. Other than that, I kind of got lucky this season, and I found this nice all-res amulet for the barbarian, and even though it's only +1 to skills, the rest of the stats on this thing make it worthwhile. And then looking at my charms for this guy, we wanted to make him more durable, so I gave him a lot of life charms, or whatever I could find along the way, and he did have an anti-charm on him, but as stated earlier, no torch. So with all that said, did we check off the budget box? I believe we did. And backtracking to the rule of cool box, just for a second, let's do a quick recap on the ice abilities that our barbarian's gonna have. So Voice of Reason lets him proc Frozen Orb and an even higher chance to proc Ice Blast. Then we have the Glacial Spike ability when we're struck, and also the Frost Novas when we're struck. So being the ice-centered maniac that I am thoroughly happy with this build. So before I showcase this barbarian, let me go over his skills, stats, and one little caveat, which was just something to make this character a little more viable at higher player counts. So looking at his skill tree, of course we have 20 into battle orders, but also 20 into battle cry. Why this, you say? Because of the drastic defense reduction of your enemies, and also the fact that we're trying to jump into mobs and basically let ourselves get beat on, just to get all of those cool proccing effects from Frost Nova and Glacial Spike. And since this skill also reduces your monster's ability to hit you hard, this was just the skill I needed to max out for this build. Now, another strong reason for maxing out Battle Cry was the fact that I hardly had to worry as much about attack rating, and we need as many hits to go through as possible, but also not waste too many skills on Frenzy or Double Swing, because the amount of attack rating that you get on either skill just didn't seem worth it to me. And it freed up a lot more skills for me to put into things like more natural resistance, things that you could use as 1-point wonders, but you actually wind up using more points on them because you have them to spend. So speaking of Frenzy and Double Swing and 1-point wonders, you can literally get away with putting 1 point into each of these abilities. And these are going to be your main skills. But again, that Battle Cry, when you hit your enemies with it, makes all the difference in the amount of times that you're going to be hitting your enemies. Now moving on to the Masteries tree, if you noticed, I did put a few extra substantial points into increased stamina. But why would anybody do that? What do you need more stamina for? The answer is the synergy that it gives to Frenzy. Each hard point that you invest into increased stamina gives you 0.4 seconds additional time to stay in the Frenzy mode, which keeps your attack speed higher longer, lets you switch over to the Double Swing skill longer, which hits way faster than Frenzy, thus allowing us to proc even more icy goodness. So now that we got the skills out of the way, let's look at his stats, and it's pretty basic. I essentially just gave him enough strength to hold the swords, and then enough strength to hold up the armor of the Mavina's set, and then the rest went straight into Vitality, which worked out really well for a budget guy like this because his health is already still almost at 5,000, even at the time of this recording, him being level 77. And now for that caveat that I mentioned earlier. So because our damage is so low, and we're only getting like 300 something cold damage per attack, he needed a little outside love. Now in most cases, you could enchant him with something like a Demon Limb or some other kind of rare weapon with a low level enchant for the extra attack rating and fire damage, which goes a long way. But in my case, because I don't have a Demon Limb, but I'm running a second account with a Sorceress next to him, I'm upping the player's count difficulty to a minimum of 2 always, but I'm also enchanting him. Now again, this build is cheap and take it for what it is, but whether you use something like a Demon Limb or a Chant or Sorceress, this guy needs a little bit of an extra boost when it comes to dealing with cold immunes, considering the fact that his physical damage is almost non-existent. Again, there's a lot of room for improvements with this guy, but as it stands right now, this is what I got. And what's really cool about the crystal swords on this guy is that only the hilts of the swords change color to red, so we still technically have a really icy looking barbarian. And a little fire damage never hurt an Ice Themed Barbarian, did it? Anyway, that was the caveat, and with all that said, we're gonna go in Act 2 of Hell on Players 2 difficulty, and I'll show you that this guy can still do a tomb run fairly easily, which of course is a decent place to find any item in the game, considering the item level of the area I believe is 85. And then afterwards, I want to show you how he fares against D-Clone, and some minor adjustments that I had to make on his mercenary in order to get the job done. So I think that's more than enough yapping from me. So let's get into it and showcase my iciest Ice Themed Barbarian yet. Alright, now that you guys saw the Stony Tomb run, check out this footage that I got of my character fighting D-Clone. Now, interestingly enough, I was able to fight him and kill him 2 times in a half an hour. Now, with the first encounter, I forgot to hit record until about halfway through, so I'll show you guys in real time the second D-Clone encounter, and I thought it went pretty smooth. Check it out. Not too bad for this mega low budget barb, right? So a quick recap, the mercenary had a Tail Rash's mask, standard issue for life leech. He had a woe stave that was upgraded to the exceptional version, and it is always good to have one of those on hand because you absolutely need to use open wounds against any kind of uber that you're fighting. Not to mention the fact that it slows the target down by 50%. And I'm sure as you can see in the footage, between that weapon and my mercenary's Holy Freeze ability, D-Clone was moving pretty slow. And then I used a simple rattle cage armor just so that my mercenary had crushing blow in addition to myself. Now I wanted to close out this video by showing you guys the first analyst charm that I got from the first D-Clone encounter, and oh my god, 1 stat point away from total perfection. Now, I'm not sure what the trade value of this would be, so let me know in the comments what you think would be a good trade for this, whether it's a rune or a piece of gear. So yeah, that just about sums up this cheap character build. I hope you guys enjoyed the video because I really enjoyed making this character. And let me know in the comments if there's something else I could do to this character to tweak the amount of cold damage he does, or something similar to really take him to the next level without sacrificing too much of his ice proccing abilities. So yeah, if you guys want to show me some love, consider hitting that like button. And if you really want to show me some love, consider hitting that subscribe button. And don't forget, if you like anything related to fitness, gaming, hobbies, or motivational speeches, check out the rest of my channel, because life isn't one-dimensional, and neither is my content. So until next time, love your life, stay motivated, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.